Hi guys, it's Forrest Reed with Iisaka Station, and today you're going to join me in the house to talk about going to conventions and sourcing product. I think maybe we can talk about both of those today. So, with the convention, with going to conventions, there comes all kinds of different hurdles. In my last video, I spoke about how building your own website, that's kind of like and having your own domain is kind of like establishing your reputation or your reputability with any councils or in any convention organizers, anyone who's looking to check the authenticity and legitimacy of a business. They're going to be looking at those things. There's other factors though, like how do you pay for the vendor fees, and how do you gauge how much inventory should you bring, hiring help if you need to, or if you how many people are you gonna need. So maybe we can just start with the people. When from the very beginning, I had family help me, whether it was just borrowing a truck or setting up my tent or and my tables and everything. So it's really important to have someone to help you wherever you go, whether it's a partner or a family member. I definitely, it wouldn't be hired help. It would be, somebody's looking to join you along for the ride, out of the goodness of their heart, to help you. And so you definitely need someone in the beginning that can help you. If you don't know anyone who would help you, I don't know what to tell you. But whether it's setting up or just going to the bathroom, you're gonna need someone to watch your stuff when you go to the bathroom. You can't leave hundreds of dollars of product unattended, unless you know that it's like a farmer's market and your neighbors or the vendors beside you. That's another thing. You really want to be friendly with everyone around you, because if you do have to step away for a minute, you can feel confident that well, maybe some random person wouldn't necessarily, you couldn't trust them with all your investment, all your business, but another business owner, they can appreciate you getting out and showing up and hustling, so they can and that's something that they relate to, because that's what they're doing. So you can rely on other people to keep an eye on your stuff for the most part, as long as you've got a good relationship with them. And of course, if it's very busy, then they're not going to be able to, they're going to have their hands full already. But in the beginning, if you're just starting out small, you could probably just ask some random person just about to, hey, could you watch all this stuff for me for a minute? I've got to run to the restroom. So yeah, having someone with you is really important. You can kind of talk about how things went, but afterwards you can plan before together, possibly. I didn't do that, but the planning, I did all the planning myself. And at the beginning, I knew I was going to go to some events outdoors, so I went, and so I'd already bought my canopy, and I actually went out in my front yard and just set it up and kind of set up some tables and chairs to get a general idea of what I was trying to accomplish with my display and merchandising. I guess that's the technical term for how you display your products. So you're gonna want somebody that can help you in the beginning. And if you're just starting out, you're only going to go to maybe one event per month or something like that. Or, maybe it's the first Friday market on the square, or maybe it's here we had the Chattahoochee Mountain Festival, or the Chattahoochee Mountain Fair. And these are just like seasonal different things. But if you reach out to your I guess if you just kind of search, that's one thing that I did. I wasn't like calling places. I was more of like searching on Facebook Marketplace for events in my area, and any events that I thought, hey, I can go out there and, well, whether I'll sell anything or not, that's a different story, but I can go out there and, meet some people and put in some work, put in some hours. That's how I did it. So I remember going on Facebook and just kind of searching local events, and reaching out to organizers and asking them if I could join. I think I knew someone at the time who had referred me to one of the first ones I went to. And it's amazing, like when I had been working at Walmart for probably about 8 months whenever I went to my first market as a vendor, and I was not necessarily enjoying Walmart. And at a certain point, it wasn't working for me. I ended up quitting, and I think I'd already gone to my first market, but the second time I did the market, I had these neighbors, and they were selling honey next to me in the tent next to me, and I went to school for plants and for botany, so I'm just very interested in biology and science and stuff. So, bees and flowers and plants and nature and all of that's very fascinating to me. And I'm always looking to learn more. So, I'd ask my neighbors a bunch of questions about because they were beekeepers. They wouldn't be selling honey if they weren't beekeepers. So I was asking them a lot of questions, and they told me about the beekeeping club in town. And this wasn't even the town that I lived in. It was, a town 20 minutes north of me. But they told me, you should go here. And gosh, if I had known, and these were old timers. The man who told me this, he's already passed away since he told me this. So I kind of just caught him right at the end of his life, giving me some sage advice. But he said, he's in his late 70s, and said, if I'd known when I was your age, I would have got into beekeeping a long time ago, and I would have found one of these clubs and I would have joined it. And I said, well, I'm not going to let your wisdom or advice be wasted on me. I'm gonna take your words for what I'm gonna take them. I'm gonna take your word for it. Sorry, I don't mean to fumble with my words, but I said, I'm going to take your word for it that this was worthwhile and that you should have done it, and that I should do it too if I like being outdoors and nature and plants and animals and all that, which is true. I do like all those things. So I ended up going to the club, and when I walked in, I didn't know a single person there, except for that man and his wife, and they weren't even there yet. But I got to the front door, where there was a woman named Katie signing people up, and she said, "Hey, are you going to the class in May or whatever?" It was in like a month and a half or 2 months. I said, "Well, sure." She said, "Are you even going to be available then?" I said, "Well, I just quit my job." She said, "Do you need a job?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "Do you need a job? Do you want to work with bees?" And I said, "Yes." because I just come to the beekeeping club looking for connections, looking for how to learn. This is a kind of a trade that you have to apprentice with, kind of thing. You can't just watch a YouTube video and raise bees. It's going to be a lot more difficult than that. So she said, "Do you need a job? Do you need a job? Do you want a job working with bees?" I said yes. And next thing you know, I was working for a commercial beekeeper, an older lady who I'm still connected to. She's in her late 60s. I think she's probably turning 70 next year or this coming year. And but she's been in the beekeeping business for 40 years, 35, 40 years, and she's an expert. And I ended up getting this job, and I worked it for the rest of the year. So I'd worked it from like April until December. And beekeeping, there's nothing going on in the winter. Everything kind of shuts down. And I just kind of like naturally made my transition into my business from that. So it's kind of like I went from quitting this terrible job to, next thing I know, I'm working this like really enlightening job outdoors. I'm doing physical work. I'm learning. I'm out in the sunshine, sweating and breathing fresh air, and everything just feels really good. And then next thing I know, I'm at my store. Because while I was doing the beekeeping part, it was kind of a part-time gig. I was working like 20, 25 hours a week, and she was paying me pretty good because I was reliable and, I paid attention and everything. And tried to treat it like treat her business like it was my business. And all the while I was doing this part-time work, I was going to these different markets and things, and meeting people, and eventually I got to where I am now, where I found out about an event probably through social media, but just looking for anime events near me or whatever, anything I could get my hands on, anything where they would accept me to go down there, and if I paid $50 to go to an event and then I did $300 in sales, oh my gosh, I was ecstatic. At the beginning, I think I paid like $25 and I did like $125 in sales, and I thought that was pretty good. But now I'm averaging probably around $1,400 per weekend now, just on Saturdays and Sundays, and then I usually average around $250 or $300 on Wednesdays, which is the other day that we're open. So I'm probably in the realm of making doing like $1,700 to $2,000 in sales weekly on average, which would come out to about $8,000 in sales per month. But I'm also going to conventions on top of that. So if I go to Japan Fest and we have a great show and we do $10,000 in sales, then I'm adding that on to everything I made at the booth that month also. So the 8,000 and the 18,000 in sales in a month, and after all the expenses, after vendor fees and parking and paying your brother to help you or what have you, buying food and gas for everybody and all that, my profit was maybe like 25%, but and I would say that's probably like that's pretty good actually. After expenses, 25% is really good. So that's where I'm at now. So if we talk about my sales this month, I think, or this November, I think we did like 15,000 or something like that, and 25% of that, well, 33% of it would be 5,000. So maybe I ended up making like $3,500 in a month profit. Now that's trying to think how to put it. there's just so many expenses that go into it as well. Like I'd pay rent for my shop at my booth at the collectibles mall. It's called Charlie's Collectible Show, if you don't know. My booth at Charlie's Collectible Show, I'd have to pay rent there, even if I have to go to another event. So if I go to an event and I do 8,000 or 10,000 in sales, and that event costs me, $2,000, what we'd end up looking at is like, okay, 50% of my 50% of my sales accounts for the cost of inventory. So that's like, if we're saying just nice round numbers for math's sake, if I go and do $10,000 at a show, the inventory costs me $5,000. Now, if the vendor fee plus paying my brother for that show plus food and gas costs me $2,000, then 5,000 plus 2,000, 7,000. That means that I have $3,000 profit, but I still have to pay my rent at my booth too. And hopefully that's profitable if while I'm away. Whoever I've had helping me in the past, they weren't necessarily as like sales oriented as I was, so they weren't making as much. And a lot, the conventions I go to are usually in the same area as my shop is. So if everybody goes to the convention, then they're not going to my shop. So I may not even, my sales might be dead that week, but I still got to pay rent for that week, and I still got to have somebody to to run the shop, whether it's my mom or if I have a friend that I can hire, give them $100 for the day or something. So there's a lot of expenses. I said, maybe I made like $3,500 profit, but after everything, I think I'm probably making about $600 a week, which is more than I was making at Walmart. Not to brag, but I've worked for 2 years to get to this point, and it's nice to just be able to do my thing. And that the average person couldn't afford to do what I did, because they don't have to just pay rent or vendor fees for shows. They got to pay rent at their house too, or to their parents or whatever. And life's very expensive. Maybe you got a partner, and you want to take them out on dates and treat them, or maybe you got kids, and that's very expensive. I don't even have to say that. Everybody knows it's very expensive. So if you want to do start a business, it's not everybody can. And if you got kids, I just you might be financially more better off than I ever have been. Potentially, I don't know. Anybody could watch this. So, you just want to make sure you have some stability in your life, even if you're not the source of it necessarily. And I made sure that whatever I was doing, I was always just putting in the hours. So whether the money was there or not, I was putting in the work, and just trusting that everything else was going to work itself out. And it's taken some time, but we're getting there. We're looking at expanding now. So that's a little bit about just expenses and people that you work with and stuff, and finding places to go to. There's some other stuff that you got to think about, like taxes, collecting taxes, sales tax when you're doing a retail business. Some people are intimidated by that. It could be confusing in the beginning. Now, I'm not advocating for anything that would be against the law. It's actually considered a felony to not collect sales tax in my state, at least. It might be just in all of the United States. I'm not sure if it's a state or a federal thing, but it's a felony where I am to not collect sales tax. And so, but in the beginning, nobody's gonna audit some random person that's just started their business 2 weeks ago or a month ago. If somebody wants to pay you with a $20 bill, and you got a $20 tag on it, it is what it is. I'm not giving any advice or advocating for anything that'd be against the law, but with cash, it's a little bit more simple in the beginning. You're going to be working on building your system so that you can do things the right way. And that's where a point of sale or POS system is going to come in, and you're going to want that really early on, in my opinion. Some people, they use like those Cash App and Venmo and PayPal and all of that, but it doesn't make sense from a business point of view. It's messy. It's not going to keep track of everything for you. If you get a point of sale system, whether it's through Square or Shopify, which Shopify is what I used. I'm not sponsored by that yet. But regardless of what system you use, you're going to want to collect credit card sales. And, sometimes people don't have cash on them. Most of the time, people don't have cash on them. And sometimes people just want to use, they got their card on their phone and they'll do a tap to pay where they just, I can't use my phone because I'm recording on it, but, they'll just scan their phone and it's paid for. Whatever they want is already paid for, and it's as simple as that. And you want to encourage that as much as possible as a business owner, because you don't want to miss out on any opportunities. And turning someone away because they only have card, well, you should expect them to have card. You're gonna want that point of sale system, and there's so many things that come along with it, like analytics and things. Now, like I said, I use Shopify, so that's what I'm going to talk about throughout all my videos, because it's been good to me. It works for me. I've got everybody's got their little complaints about everything and little issues, but it's been good for me, and that's what I would recommend personally, but from my own experience. So if you have Shopify, if you want to set up Shopify, it's something like I said, you're going to get your domain. In the previous video, I mentioned getting your domain. It's going to be like $15 a year. And then if you want Shopify, they have plans where you might have to pay everything up front, but for $30 a month for 12 months, you can have your own website, and the point of sale system is included in that. So you could say, oh, I don't care about websites. I don't want to fool with that stuff. It's too annoying. I just want the point of sale. Well, you can use that for the $30 a month. You don't have to, build a website and get all your inventory in your system and stuff, but it's all there ready for you when you need it. And, it kind of gives you something to do if you do ever have time to work on, growing your business. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of investment. So, when you do find that you have time to work on it, it's nice to, just build a website or create some listings. It's going to teach you about inputting your barcodes and keeping track of inventory and taking photographs or photos to, for all the, like if I want to sell a book, like I know I got books all over the place. Hold on, I got a book over here somewhere. Let me find it. okay, if I want to sell this book and list it on my website, it's not enough to just take a picture of the front cover. You're going to want to take a picture of the cover. You're going to want to take a picture of the back cover. You're going to want to take a picture of the pages to show that there's no damage on the edges or creases or yellowing. These books, if they sit on the shelves long enough, they'll gather dust. They'll turn yellow. They're kind of orange or yellow. So there's so many things that you'll just learn by having a website. And that's all just kind of the icing on the cake whenever you set up your point of sale system with Shopify anyways. So I can't recommend that enough. Get your point of sale system. You're going to lose out on sales if you don't have it. And, when to follow up, like let's say moving to the next point about that, you're going to look at it like, what equipment do I need? So to do sales, you're going to need, well, I thought you needed an iPad because I also wanted to do graphic design for, just like business cards or my logo, my mascot, anything I wanted to do. I was like, well, I gotta be able to do some graphic design easily and with a touch screen, and where I can use a stylus and stuff to drag things around and everything. So I got a tablet, and then Shopify, they actually sold me a tap and chip card reader, which it's always worked good for me. It suits me just fine. I think that it may be obsolete, and it might have been obsolete whenever I got it, but it would appear now that you can just install the point of sale, the POS app on your phone for Shopify, and you can collect credit card sales just by tapping a chip or doing tap to pay on a phone. All they got to do is put it up to your phone while you have the point of sale app open, and you can actually collect credit card and digital payment over your phone. You don't even have to spend the $60 on the chip reader and the tap and chip reader, because most people have tap. There's every once in a while somebody has a card that they can't insert, and that's when the chip reader comes in handy, is when they have a credit card that doesn't do tap. But for the most part, that's kind of phased out, and we're just getting more and more digital every day. Regardless of how you feel about that. So as far as equipment for starting your business, maybe just a tablet will do. You don't need things like barcode scanners, and you can use your tablet to scan barcodes. It's got a camera on it probably, or your phone. On the Shopify point of sale app, I can actually click the little barcode scanner, and it will use the camera on my phone to scan stuff if I need it to. It's not as convenient as picking up a barcode scanner and going beep beep beep, but it works just the same. So yeah, you don't need a lot of equipment to get off the ground. You always want to bring a little bit of cash with you, so people have change. And like I said, you don't have to even bring coins necessarily. You just if you got something priced at $20 and somebody hands you a $20 bill, that's it is what it is. So yeah, let's see here. We've hit on finding conventions on social media, finding just random events. I would just start small and work your way up. And when you do work your way up, you're going to find that some of those conventions are expensive. They're prohibitively expensive. And that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to talk about is, not everybody has $1,200 to front to go to an anime con. And if you go as an artist vendor, if you are an artist and you go as an artist vendor, it's not that expensive. But if you're working in retail and you're trying to do, you bought stuff wholesale, you're a reseller only. You're not necessarily selling your artwork. It's going to be a much more expensive vendor fee. And if you don't have the $1,200 to front for the event, or the $300 or whatever, maybe start a little bit smaller. I still go to an event where they give you a table and it's like $150 for the day. If you get 2 tables, it's $300 for the day, and that's a great event. I can do like $3,000 in sales on just a Saturday, and it costs me $300 for 2 tables. But if you are asking yourself, like, how do I pay for these more expensive ones, there's special financing options available to business owners. I used a PayPal 6-month credit card, and I believe Bank of America has something as well, but I don't know anything about that. But you know, go on PayPal, apply for your 6-month 0 interest special financing credit card. You might have to make a business account first. I don't remember, but I do know that I have a business PayPal account, and that's what I use. This is getting a little bit on a tangent, but just while we're talking about business accounts, you're gonna want your business Venmo. You're gonna want your business PayPal. You're gonna want your business bank account. So you're gonna have to go and go to your local bank, sit down with them, and open up a business bank account. And I have multiple accounts for my business that I set up at the very beginning, so that I could sit some money over here if I need to kind of separate the money. And that's what I do with my sales tax. I have like a whole account where if I collect sales tax, I just like transfer some money into that account, and then at the end of the month, when it's time to pay the government the sales tax that I collected, I just send it from that account. But anyways, that was a tangent, just mentioning that having a business bank account is a great idea. It's going to help you pay yourself in the future, because you're going to have like all the money coming into the business account, and then it's going to go out into your personal account, and that's your paycheck basically, for accounting purposes, which you have to have that if you ever want to be able to get a mortgage or something. You have to have that proof of income, and those pay stubs and things like that. But that's a long ways off from where we are right now, and that was kind of just a tangent. So going back to signing up for a 0% interest special financing credit card. They make them for different periods of time, but the PayPal one that I've used, I would recommend. It's got a 0% interest for 6 months, and usually, it's not always the case, but usually your event, when it becomes time to pay for the event, to pay the invoice for whatever the vendor fee is, that could be within 6 months of when the event is. And so if you plan on making the money to pay for that vendor fee at the event, you can get away with not having to pay the vendor fee until after you've made your money. And it'll pay for itself if you use that special financing option. So that's another thing that I thought was worth mentioning. One other thing, as like a beginning business owner, I talked in the last video about you want to start your LLC, your limited liability company, and you can do that simply. You don't need to hire a lawyer or anything. You don't have to pay any fees. I think there's like a one-time, like $150 that you pay to the government. You don't pay it to some company to set the account up for you. You submit with the I'm trying to think what it is, the like commerce something like state commerce website. You go there, you file out the form, you pay like a one-time fee, and then for every year from then on, it's like $50 a year to have a business and to have that license for an LLC. But once you get your LLC, you're going to have questions like regarding sales tax, especially if you're doing online sales nationally, like across the state line. you're going to have a lot of questions about what do I do with these taxes that I collected. Um, the good news is it's not as bad as it's not as difficult as I had thought it was at first. If you are in a particular state, and let's say you've got your stuff on your website, you're selling it online, which we were supposed to be talking about conventions, so maybe that's a little bit of a tangent, but if basically every business has something called tax nexus in the state that they are set up in. So my business is in Georgia. I have my tax nexus in Georgia. And you'll find that if you find any like independent retailers online that have their own like Shopify websites and things like that, if you buy from them and they are located in another state, you will see that because they have tax nexus in their state, they don't have to collect sales tax outside of their state until they hit a certain threshold. So it may be that I don't have to collect any sales tax from sales done to New York, people in New York, until I've done 150 sales or $10,000 or $100,000, whichever one, whatever requirement. Every state's got its own requirements for meeting tax nexus. But as long as you are below that threshold, you don't have to worry about collecting sales tax out of state for your business. Now, if you go to a convention, sometimes they have tax forms, and that might be its own animal. I'm not a professional, a tax professional, but if a event ever gave me a form, I might, even if I'm out of state, I might fill it out, collect the sales tax, and mail it to the appropriate. It's going to have the address of the tax people on it, on the form. I actually just got an email about a tax form for the event that's coming up next week. So when you're out of state, I wouldn't worry about sales tax so much. When you are in state, that's all I've been doing. I went out of state one time and I regretted it because I went by myself, and I would say never go out of state for a convention alone, because you need that person there so that you can trust to hold the fort down. If you got, to go to the restroom, or, you also have to eat. There's all these like human bodily functions you have to take care of. So you got to go somewhere with a partner, and that's kind of kept me. Really, we've got enough going on in Georgia that I've just never felt compelled to drive 6 hours to North Carolina or South Carolina or Virginia or whatever, or Tennessee. I stuck to kind of the Atlanta area and the east side of Georgia around Augusta, and so it's kept things pretty simple for me. If you live on the state line, you might be going across the state line every time to do business, and it might require a little more research to figure out what exactly you need to do. But taxes aren't so complicated, and if you have everything through a system like a point of sale system, it will have it will automatically collect sales tax for you based off of whatever percentage whatever rate you tell it is your tax rate where you are. It will collect sales tax automatically. That's what you can file online. It's like, I did $10,000 in sales. I collected 7%. 7% of that was taxes collected, and so I owe the government, 7%, which might be $700 if you did 10,000 and 7% was tax. So it's all in the system. I usually just go to as I collect sales tax each week or bi-weekly, I'll just put it into a separate bank account for my business, and then at the end of the month, I'll use that bank account to pay on the Georgia Tax Center. It's called gtc.com, and I do it every month, and it's not bad. It's not. I mean, it takes all of 5 minutes for me to go on my Shopify, go to last month's analytics, and it'll say you did this much sales. This is how much tax you collected, and all you do is you go on the government tax website and you type in I did this much sales. This is the taxes I collected, and sometimes they'll even pay you like $20 or something for bringing that revenue in the form of taxes. So yeah, that's about all I can think of right now regarding events. But hopefully you found that information useful, and hopefully I'm not rambling too much. I know a lot of people are not patient enough to sit and listen to me for 40 minutes, and much less an hour like my last video. But the reason I'm doing these videos is because I think that when you start a business, you're going to have a lot of questions, and I'm just telling you how I kind of navigated my own questions. I'm not necessarily saying that I'm the guy with the answers, and I'm definitely not, a professional law consultant or a lawyer, or take everything I say with a grain of salt, and do your due diligence to check the facts. But that's that's a little bit of how I navigated going to conventions, managing my system and my taxes, and just figuring out how to pay for things, and kind of like what expenses there are when you're starting a business. So thank you very much. And again, it's Forest with Iisaka Station. We're located in Stone Mountain, Georgia, inside of a mall called Charlie's Collectible Show. We're open every weekend, and we do different events, and we're also open on Wednesdays. So if you're ever in the Atlanta area, come by and see me. Thank you very much, and please like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.